No, no. I mean, torture is always going to be part of war, simply because there's an unfortunate element in human nature in that people will seek to use the worst methods possible. Now, how armies counter this is by using the methods that have been institutionalized in many armies, such as for example, the United States or in the British Army, where the law of armed conflict is a critical part of your annual training, and the consequences for violating the law of armed conflict are quite severe. In Nigeria, again, as I've mentioned, there have been great steps that have been taken, especially by Nigerian standards, to alleviate some of these allegations of human rights violations, such as the Code of Conduct, the Human Rights Desk at the CIMIC office, and things like this. So, although Cameroon will not be happy with this report, I think it is positive because it will have, it will hopefully force them to take active steps to, investigate and counter any future allegations.
Right. Finally, on Monday, Boko Haram did release a video showing a group of captured women pleading with the government to negotiate their release. Just how far has the Nigerian army, do you think, gone in defeating and degrading this group?
The video that Boko Haram released is very interesting for several good reasons. The first is that, to answer your question directly, the Nigerian army has done quite a good job at degrading and defeating Boko Haram. But Boko Haram is an insurgent group. It's not an army. It doesn't need to hold territory. It doesn't need to fly its flag. All it needs to do is to survive. And Boko Haram has demonstrated they have survived. And this video is one of their ways of demonstrating that they are surviving. And not only are they surviving, they're able to inflict pain upon, the Nigerian people and the Nigerian government by capturing civilians, by attacking convoys. So the so what, as we would say, of this issue is that the Nigerian army, whilst it has done the substantive job of defeating Boko Haram, still has to do the follow-on job of denying them the freedom of movement, denying them these opportunities. And many of the missteps that the Nigerian military has undertaken so far, such as denying in the first place that anybody was captured, gives Boko Haram this propaganda and this, kind of kudos to release this video as if they've, achieved a great victory. So whilst the conflict is not over, Boko Haram is degraded, but they still have the capability, as they've demonstrated, to inflict pain upon the Nigerian people.
Thank you so much for your time, security expert Chidin Warner, speaking to us live from London.
Thank you for having me.
Let's move on to other stories. Now, the Appeals Chamber of the International Criminal Court, ICC, has directed a trial chamber to carry out a new review as to whether former President of Cote d'Ivoire, Laurent Gbagbo, should continue to be detained during trial on charges of war crimes. Presiding Judge Piotr Hofmansky says Mr. Gbagbo will remain in detention until the review. The former Ivorian president is accused of crimes against humanity, including murder, persecution, rape, and other sexual violence committed during a 4-month civil war in Cote d'Ivoire. The conflict erupted because Mr. Gbagbo, who lost the 2010 presidential election, refused to stand down.
The Peace Chamber considers that the errors mentioned previously have materially affected the impugned decision. In light of these errors, the Peace Chamber decided to reverse the impugned decision and directs the trial chamber to carry out a new review as to whether Mr. Gbagbo should continue to be detained or should be released with or without conditions. Until this matter has been so decided, Mr. Gbagbo shall remain in detention.
Until the trial chamber 1 conducts this new review of the detention of Mr. Gbagbo will remain in detention. Another point that is worth mentioning is that Peace Chamber stressed that it is not suggesting what the outcome of the new review should be. It's something for the trial chamber 1 to consider.
In North Africa, children caught up in the ongoing conflict in South Sudan are pushing political leaders to restore peace in the town of Yei, a significant trading hub, which also serves neighboring Uganda and DR Congo. About 70% of the town's population fled last year after conflict broke out in the region. An ongoing civil war in the country has claimed over 50,000 lives and displaced millions of civilians since 2013.
Children in the South Sudanese town of Yei want their leaders to take a more serious approach towards restoring peace in the country to enable them learn in a safe environment. However, some children remain, including a number of orphans who have sought sanctuary in a local Catholic school, which has managed to stay open throughout the crisis. The children depend on 14 volunteer teachers to learn.
I don't have parents. My parents are all dead. I don't have someone to support me in my education. I am the one who supports myself in education. But now I don't have anything to support myself in education because I don't have money to support myself.
Let them bring peace to South Sudan so that South Sudanese children should enjoy their life like the one of ago.
In May, the United Nations reported that war and famine had forced more than 2 million children in South Sudan to flee their homes. The mission is working on plans to establish a new peacekeeping base in Yei, but says local authorities need to guarantee safe access for personnel.
This grassroots peace process, we want them to take the lead. It's much better that local people take the lead and we come in and support in whatever we can do rather than the UN come in as the great saviours, which I don't think we do as well as the local peoples.
Sherra's visit follows the publication of a UN report in May, which documents human rights violations and abuses against civilians from both parties to the conflict between July 2016 and January 2017.
Zambia's detained opposition leader Hakainde Hichilema has marked 100 days in prison by complaining about the terrible conditions that prisoners are being held in. He was arrested after his convoy allegedly obstructed the presidential motorcade. He was charged with treason following that incident. Mr. Hichilema, who is now in a maximum prison, wrote on his Facebook page that he harbors no hate for anyone and that his love for Zambia has not changed. But he says that regardless of the crimes inmates have committed, they need to be treated like human beings and in accordance with local and international conventions regarding respect for human rights. In Burundi, President Pierre Nkurunziza is making his first trip abroad for the first time in 2 years after a coup attempt was launched to unseat his government. He had traveled with a number of senior ministers to Tanzania, home to about 250,000 Burundian refugees. They fled during the crisis sparked by Mr. Nkurunziza's decision to run for a third term in office. He was attending a summit in Tanzania when the coup attempt was made in May 2015. Hundreds of people have been killed since the crisis began, mainly alleged opposition supporters. Still to come on Network Africa. Election campaigns kick off in Rwanda, where President Paul Kagame is running for a third term. That's in a moment. Please stay with us.